Alright everyone, welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 8 recap. Week 8 puts us officially more than halfway through the regular season. Let's see what happened this week. We had some, after a week or two of Monday nights not really mattering too much. Finally, we had some matchups where it did come down to Monday night. We had two of them. One was actually ended up being close. One was fairly assured of, I guess you would say. But unless, of course, this was the weekend, the quarterback massacre of Halloween 2023. They were dropping left and right. Of course, today is Halloween. Got pretending that I'm Philip Rivers once again, but I still think probably many of you would agree that on this Halloween, is there anything spookier or scarier than the Pittsburgh Steelers, than Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense? I don't know. Anyway, what is there to talk about? I said quarterbacks going down this week. A lot of things. I think that I am actually probably more upset about Kirk Cousins than Jim is, even though it leaves Jim with literally no quarterback on his roster at the moment, because Trevor Lawrence is on his bye. So yeah, I said the waiver wire is going to be interesting tonight. Chasing quarterbacks, because I know Kevin, Detling, and Ed. Whoa! Don't do that on video. Don't put that on the internet. Kevin, Ed, and Detling all have one quarterback on their roster. Technically, Detling has two, but I guess Kyler Murray's going to come back. He must be ready to come back because they traded their starting quarterback, Dobbs, to Minnesota. So I guess Kyler Murray's about ready to come back. So technically, I guess Detling has a second quarterback, but I mean, Kevin only has Josh Allen. He's got a bye coming up. Ed only has Mahomes. He's got a bye coming up. Justin has currently the only quarterback available for him this week is Stafford, who is injured. Unsure if his thumb is going to be healed enough for him to play this week. Thanks to having Puka, I know that the Rams have a bye next week. So if I were them, I would definitely just tell Stafford to take a week off. So they got their bye next week. Basically get almost 3 weeks of time to let his thumb heal. I would imagine that's what is going to happen. Of course, I don't know for sure, and Stafford is a gamer. He's probably going to try to tough it out. But if I were the Rams, I would probably sit Stafford for a week. They're not making the Super Bowl run this year. But yeah, Levis kind of came out of nowhere this past week, went off. So there's a lot of people with some quarterbacks, and you guys with only one. You guys are going to be on bye here soon. Jim has nobody right now, and Justin is kind of up in the air with his quarterback situation. So that's like almost half the league that's got some quarterback issues, which if I had known that Levis was going to go crazy this past week, maybe would have waited a little bit to see. But that's why last week I picked up Carr, because I didn't think still doesn't seem like Fields is going to be back. Needed somebody here. Getting ready. New Goff was coming up on his bye. So that's why I picked up Carr for his matchup last week. For his matchup this week. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, and I hate when you put somebody in IR and they're just out, like Fields is right now. I can't make any moves or transactions because he's in my IR spot, but he's currently listed as questionable. So Yahoo doesn't let you make moves when you're technically my roster is over the limit, but I don't plan on moving Fields out of there. I assume he's going to get back to the out tag, and then I'll be able to do something if I want to, which is kind of why I picked up Car 4 last week, because again I kind of expected this situation, and knowing that like tonight I can't make any roster moves, and really I don't want to. When I want to be in a position where I'm fine with that, and that is where I am. Anyway, enough about me. You guys don't give a shit. Let's talk about what happened in week 8. This was an unusual week because every single team from the top 6 of the standings was playing a team in the bottom 6 of the standings. And unfortunately, Possum Magic couldn't quite do it, but he came oh so close to having Dub C, the Wizard, and the Hillbillies having a 2-game lead over. It didn't happen, but it came this close. From the top 3 guys having a 2-game lead at this point over the other 4 people behind him. But unfortunately, Detling won, and not unfortunately, as like a rip on Detling or Treese Ice or anything, just saying, would have liked to have that 2-game gap over everybody else, and just for symmetry purposes, when I look at the standings there. Anyway, that one anomaly, 5-3 in there. Anyway, is that it? Yeah, it didn't happen, but said that the top 6 played the bottom 6, and let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 of them were able. Half of them were able to matchups were able to get a win. Muddling things up a little bit there in the middle. Some people had moved up. 3 and 5, still a tough spot to be in, and 4 and 4. A couple people there. It's going to be an interesting chase here for the playoffs. For the last couple spots, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the teams with 6 wins only really need 2 more to probably make the playoffs for sure. And we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 6 weeks left. Only need 2 wins in 6 weeks. To get to 8, I would imagine any team that gets to 8 should be in the playoffs here. So, yeah. All right. Blah, blah, blah. You guys don't care. Let's get into it. Finally. You waited 9 minutes of bullshit to get into the matchups. So, let's see. First off, Biscuits and Porn, our defending Tonto Bowl champion, trying to make it back-to-back. Doing what he can. He went up against the Dub C hooligans, who have been on fire these past few weeks, and Dub C takes this one down 229.6, which you scored. Dub C last week you scored 229.95, and this week 229.6. To Biscuits and Porn's 188.9, which would have only lost to 3 teams. Unfortunately, you played one of those 3 teams, and it was the Dub C Hooligans. Alright, let's queue up the matchup here on Yahoo. Alright, for the Dub C Hooligans, Josh Allen, I think that was the Thursday night game. He goes off for 65 points. A.J. Brown continuing his ridiculous tear. He scores 33 points. He's been just he has been going crazy the past 6 weeks. Between week 3 and 8, he has scored 22, 41, 19, 20, 29, and 33. So yeah, he's got over 125 yards every single week. This week he had added 2 touchdowns to that. So yeah, he's been on fire. For Dub C there, hopefully it isn't too much too soon. Ayuk goes for 16. Keenan goes for 15. Gus Edwards and Deontay Foreman. Said Foreman went off and scored 3 touchdowns for you last week and put up a 33-pointer. This week we get Gus Edwards putting up 3 touchdowns for you, 29.5 points. Foreman only 4.5. Looks like Roshan Johnson is back for them. So Foreman might slide back into irrelevance, maybe. Herbert will be coming back soon. Said Roshan. So a lot of running backs to try to feed there in that situation. Said you only have your running back situation is extremely thin. Past Edwards, Foreman, and Stevenson. You've got this Mitchell guy from the Ravens in case anything happens to Gus. You got Ahmed from the Dolphins, who is basically irrelevant, especially once Ashane comes back. So yeah, good wide receivers, but you are really hurting for the most part at the running back position. Basically praying that these guys, it's not going to happen, Kevin. They're not going to score 3 touchdowns every single week. So we'll see. Hawkinson goes for 21 before Kirk Cousins goes down in this matchup for biscuits and porn. We'll get to that. We'll talk about the Vikings a little bit after we're done here. Stevenson in the flex goes for 7. Koo goes for about 12. And your Jets defense. Yahoo says 10, but you got a pretty significant bump there. Looks like maybe about 18 up to 28. So yeah, almost 100 points just from Allen and Brown. 30 from Edwards. 21 from Hawkinson. Almost 30 from your defense. Another 229-pointer for the Dubsy Hooligans. And it is enough to get past Biscuits and Porn this week, who, like I said, would have defeated all but 3 teams this week. And unfortunately, how it seems to happen all too often, one of the teams that you would not have beaten is one of the teams that you played. All right. Cousins goes for 45.5 before tearing his Achilles. And it pains me. This pains me. It hurts. It hurts right in here. Right in here. Maybe a little bit lower. Because Addison has been so good. All right. Devontae Smith finally shows up. 23 points for him. Jacoby Myers on Monday night. You had him and Jacobs. The Raiders looked like complete trash. 3 points for Myers. Downs 14. Jacobs actually scored a touchdown. Decent stat-wise, just under 17. Javonte Williams, almost 100 yards and a touchdown, gets you 18.8. Kittle goes for about 24. He looks like he just needed 1 more yard to get you a 3-point bonus, but he couldn't quite do it. Wouldn't have mattered. Ray Rice gets you 9.5. Matt Gay gets you about 10, and your Chargers defense against the Chicago Bears. Yahoo says 13. Looks like you got about a 12-point bump to 25. So not too bad there. I think this is like the 2nd or 3rd week in a row where no long touchdowns, no binks. So it's made my job a little bit easier. But But yeah, so that's where we were. It's decent scores up and down both lineups, but couple big ones there for Dub C. When your opponent's quarterback puts up 65, you're going to be hard pressed to counter that. But said 188, 189, pretty good score. As for Biscuits, like I said, Cousins gone for the year now. Trevor Lawrence this week is on a bye, so that kind of you're going to have Cousins and Jefferson in your IR spots right now. The guys you were banking on to carry you to the promised land later in the year are now both going to be resting in your IR spots. One possibly more permanently than the other. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight, overnight, what quarterback moves some of you guys make. But anyway, Dub C with the victory. He goes to 6-2 thanks to these back-and-back 229 pointers. He actually leapfrogs the Wizard and the Hillbillies up into first place. And Biscuits and Porn said he's the title defense getting grimmer and grimmer. He drops to 3-5. He is in 8th place. All right, and then we'll just go straight down my line. One of the matchups that came down to Monday night, the Wizard of Winburn needed about 27 points from his quarterback, Goff, to get past Gags to Riches, whose team decided to show up this week, sort of. But Goff was able to pull it out. Said needed 27, got 40 on Monday night. And the Wizard gets the victory 164.4 to 150.8. So surviving the quarterback massacre, sort of, on Monday night there. Goff got 40.5. Thursday night, Diggs went for 16. But then basically all the rest of my receivers, Puka, Deontay, and Addison, all had their quarterbacks go down in this matchup. The most concerning, again, is Kirk Cousins. Let's see. So Diggs went for 16. Puka only 9. Only 7.5, I should say. The Cowboys just completely trounced the Rams. They could not do anything in that game. Puka didn't do anything. Cooper Kupp didn't do anything. I got Deontay. He goes for 16.5. Pickett got hurt in this game. Poor Kenny Pickett went down. Let's see. But really, it doesn't matter who's the quarterback for the Steelers, Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. Deontay is a target machine. Puts up his 8 for 85. Still kind of going to expect that kind of production from him, no matter who the quarterback is for the Steelers, so I wasn't too upset about that. Pollard, been a huge disappointment this year, only 6.5 points. Brees, 21.5. Mark Andrews, 14. Addison, another great game from him. Almost 100 yards and another touchdown, 21.5 points. But again, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that situation. So Addison, as much as it pains me to say this, probably moving to my bench, at least for the time being. Kicker, Fairbairn, now from Houston, goes to only 1 point, 1 PAT. I was expecting a little bit more from that against Carolina. Fortunately, it didn't cost me. And the Baltimore defense, Yahoo says 11. Not too much added onto there, I think. Actually, I think me and Gags, both our defenses, added 9 points. So I got 20 from the Ravens defense. It was enough to get past Gags this week. Tua shows up nice for him, puts up 57 points. Michael Thomas, Godwin, and T. 11 for Thomas, 18 for Godwin, and 12 for T. Your running backs, though, Latavius Murray and Miles Sanders. Don't know what was going on with Sanders exactly here. If he was still injured or he's just being totally outplayed by Chuba Hubbard. Your two running backs combined, Murray scores 2.1 and Sanders scores 0. Mr. Gagnon, 0. So your two running backs combined for 2.1. Only 6.5 from Pitts. A.J. Dillon, a little bit over 10. Aubrey, your Dallas kicker, goes for about 13. And then again, your Houston defense, plus 9, took you up to 21. But yeah, Gags wasn't quite enough to get there. Wizard was able to pull it out with his quarterback on Monday night, moving to 6-2. Like I said, Dub C leapfrogged the Hillbillies and the Wizard. Wizards actually stays in second place, while Hillbillies dropped to 3. And Gags to Riches drops to 3-5. He is in 10th place. All right, next up we got Shawshank versus Darkwing Jet. Shawshank trying to keep his playoff hopes alive, while Darkwing said he was one of the top 6 teams that went down this week to Shawshank. Final score, 190.3 to 157.7. And really, when it comes down to it, this matchup was completely decided by Justin not playing the Cowboys defense. I know it was playing against your quarterback. Maybe you didn't want to do that, but I was watching the beginning of that game, and Dallas was just taking it to the Rams. I think they scored a touchdown. They got a safety. I'm like, oh shit, Justin's in great shape. He's going to crush whoever he's playing. And then I looked, and the Dallas Cowboys defense were on Justin's bench. Justin. They weren't on a bye this week. You got the Cowboys defense. You play them. I know it's against your quarterback. Doesn't matter. Anyway, said 190 to 157 for Shawshank. Herbert goes for 58. Amari Cooper, Garrett Wilson, and D-Hop. 15 for Cooper, 17.5 for Wilson. He actually has a 100-yard game here. But the big one was D-Hop. 4 catches, but 3 of them are touchdowns from Will Levis. Almost 35 points. Saquon goes for 19. Kareem Hunt goes for 13.5. Johnny Smith, 2.3. The tight ends in this matchup combined for 3.7. Derrick Henry in the flex. Both your Titans have Q's next to their names now. He goes over 100 yards, gets you 19.2. Your San Fran kicker and defense. 5 point something for Moody. Then San Fran's defense. Unfortunately for Josh, didn't cost him here this week. As San Fran actually lost to the Bengals. Had a couple of sacks. Looks like 1 turnover, but they lost the game. Gave up a lot of points and turnovers. Looks like the correct score was 6, which is what Yahoo says, because I don't think I had to make any adjustments to your score there, Josh. So yeah, San Francisco only 6 points this week, but such a big one from Herbert and Hopkins was enough to carry you past Darkwing Jet this week, who, let's see, Stafford goes for 25 before exiting the game early with that thumb injury. CeeDee Lamb goes off for 44 points, 12 catches, 2 touchdowns, over 150 receiving yards. Excuse me. Let's move in a little closer here. Say hi to you. Help get some more light on the screen here. Anyway, you played Tank Dell, who got 6. Tyreek, over 100 yards and another touchdown, 25 points for him. He's already over 1,000 yards receiving for the year. Looking to set the single season record. We'll see what happens. All I know and all I care about is that when I play Justin in 2 weeks, Tyreek is on a bye. Thanks, Lexi. Anyway, Your running backs, James Cook and Najee Harris, 8.5, 10.5. Waller strains his hamstring again, goes for 1.5. Tyler Lockett in the flex, he's been pretty solid. 8 for 88 and a touchdown, 22 points. Elliott, your kicker, goes for about 11. Elliott. And then you said it once again. Justin, you played the Atlanta Falcons defense, and your score, defensive score, didn't need to be adjusted either. Yahoo says 5. The correct score was 5. I actually don't know exactly what the Cowboys defense, let's see, you lost by just under 33. So that means you needed 38 from the Cowboys defense. I'm going to guess that they probably did that. You needed, 33, 30. You lost by, blah. I don't know what I'm doing here. You still lost by, 33. So you needed an extra. Well, okay. Yeah. So the Cowboys defense needed to score at least, 38? Let's take a quick look. Who cares? We've already wasted enough time already. And like I said before, last week I think, you guys know what happened already. This is the recap. We're talking about the past. So, you guys know what happened. I need to bring some fresh information to your brains. So let's take a look. The Cowboys defense. All right, it's real quick. I said 1 turnover, a blocked kick. But we'll just go through 2 sacks. That's 2. Safety is 5, so 7. 8, 9, 10 for the interception. A touchdown. That's 16. Blocked kick. We're up to 19. They won the game. That's up to 22. They gave up 20 points, so we're up to 25, which is what Yahoo said. Let's take a look at the stats for the Rams. So we were at, 25? First downs, you would have got 3, so up to 28. Rushing yards, 92, so 28 plus 6 is 34. 34, 35, 36, 37. You would have gotten 37 from the Cowboys defense instead of 5. So that would be a 32-point boost. And if we added 32 onto your score, Justin, you would have lost by half a point. So I guess I stand corrected. Justin, if you would have played the Cowboys defense, you still would have lost this matchup. Said by a half a point, 0.6. Stafford, if you had played the Cowboys defense and Stafford completes 1 more pass, you would win, but here we are. We all know that it is not what happened. Anyway, Shawshank, both of you guys are now 4-4. Shawshank moves up to 4-4. Justin drops to 4-4. However, Darkwing is in 5th place, while Shawshank is in 7th. On the outside, looking in, if the playoffs started today. All right, then we had the basement, not a battle of the basement, but Disco, AIDS, changes his name to just AIDS. Of course, AIDS, AIDS, the acronym for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. You guys couldn't seem to not be able to remember that last in your podcast. But anyway, it is with a, we already touched on this on the line app. It is with a heavy heart that I regret to inform you guys that Ed Lager has succumbed to AIDS. Moment of silence for Ed Lager. All right. Anyway, like I said, last week, Disco, AIDS, AIDS, whatever you want to call him, Emily's Box, whatever you want to call him. I think I said last week, even though he was in the basement at 1-6, he has a team and a lineup that I believe I said could drop 225 any given week. And here he goes off and puts up 240 points. The highest score of anyone all year long, is now in possession of Disco, getting the victory over Ed Logger. Said 240.15 to 150.75. Magic Johnson could not save you this week. Nearly a 90-point victory for AIDS. You guys are wondering last week in your podcast why did I keep saying AIDS, and then you just kept saying, and you were saying AIDS over and over again, and realized that the same thing that I realized. It's just really awkward to keep on saying the word AIDS over and over and over. It just really makes you uncomfortable. But anyway, which is why I started saying AIDS. Anyway, Burrow goes for 58.5. The Burrow to Chase connection, solid in this one. 58.5 for Burrow, 25 for Chase. Hollywood Brown goes for 15. Basically everyone in Disco's lineup this week scores a touchdown. Chase scores 1. Brown scores 1. He gets 15. Waddle scores 1. 25 points for him. McCaffrey scores at least 1. Almost 30 points from him. Gibbs scores a touchdown. He almost 33 from him. Logan Thomas fell in the end zone this week. 16.5 points. Elijah Moore in the flex, only 5. Sanders, your kicker, gets about 7 point something. And then your Giants defense against the Jets. Both teams playing in their home stadium. I wonder, I can't remember exactly. The Giants must have been the home team because they're listed as versus the Jets. I wonder if, does anybody have a Jet here? Did they list the Jets as being at the Giants? Take a look at my team here, because Breece Hall would tell me. Yeah, they were. They both teams playing in their stadium, but the Giants were listed as the home team. Anyway, get back to Disco's matchup here. Yahoo says 16 for the Giants defense. They lost the game. Looks like you got a 9-point bump to 25 and getting you to that 240-point total, setting the highest points for the league so far this year. Ed Logger, Patrick Mahomes, suffering from some flu-like issues over the weekend, playing in Denver. Thought it was supposed to snow, but I guess it didn't or was done by the time this game went on. And they lost to the Broncos. I don't think they scored any touchdowns. It was all field goals. And only 30 points this week from Mahomes. Evans, Flowers, and Scary Terry. 13, 7, and 17 respectively. Mostert goes for 10.5. Swift goes for 14.5. Komet goes for 18. Devontae did really nothing on Monday night. You only needed a 90-point game from him. Unfortunately, he gave you 2. Elle McPherson, your kicker, goes for about 9. Your Miami defense, Yahoo says 12. Looks like you actually got a pretty significant bump. 18 points maybe, up to about 30. So, good score from your defense. But Mahomes kind of let you down this week. I think he got you like 75 last week. This was actually his lowest output of the season against the Denver Broncos defense, who have been letting teams go crazy. But I don't know. If it was a divisional matchup, if it was the weather, I said Mahomes had the flu. They said he's kind of sick. Not sure how that affected his performance. But then again, also, let's keep in mind, Taylor Swift was not in attendance at this game. So should we be surprised? I guess not. Sorry, guys. Talking this much makes my throat a little scratchy. Just not used to it. Anyway, so yeah, AIDS. Disco climbs out of the basement. He is now 2-6. He is in 11th place. Ed Lager drops to 4-4, but he is still in the playoffs if they started today in 6th place. Let's take a look at my favorite thing, the current projections. So Disco is now 2-6. Yahoo projects him to finish 8-6. So Disco, you are done losing for the rest of the year. How does that feel? Must feel pretty good. Also, I should add, Dub C Hooligans, who took over the top spot in the standings this week, Yahoo projects at 6-2. Yahoo projects you to finish 7-7. So you're only going to win one more time this year, Dub C. So enjoy that top spot while you can. And yeah, he's got Disco projected to win out his schedule. And, he's got no CMC or Gibbs this week. So we'll see what happens. But looking at the rest of you guys who play Disco here the rest of this year and the season coming up, not gonna lie, little alarmed after this 240-point outburst. Don't forget he's gonna have a Shane coming back from the Dolphins, stacking his running back core. You guys down there, whoever's playing him these next few weeks, somebody needs to take him out. We need to get him to 6-8 and not in the playoffs. Let's take a look here real quick. These next few weeks, who Disco has to go up against. He's got Darkwing this week. He's got Hillbillies. He's got Gritty, Shawshank, Possum, and the final week of the season, he's got the Wizard. So we will see. Can he roll out 7? Can he win 7 straight games to finish the season and make the miracle comeback? Cinderella story. We, as Treesize would say, we shall see. All right, then we've got another bottom 6 team taking down the formerly number 1 seeded, riding a 6-game win streak, currently ended. Getting Gritty takes down Hillbillies on PCP, 180.1 to 145.45. For Getting Gritty, Dak goes for 58. Your receivers, Kirk, Olaf, and Thielen. All this wheeling and dealing. Still starting Thielen. I don't know what else I can go with off of there. Seems to have worked out okay for Getting Gritty so far. Up a little bit, ups and downs here. So Kirk, Olaf, and Thielen, 8.5, 9.5, 15 respectively. Aaron Jones, only 8.5. Bijan, 12.2. At least he played this week, I guess. That's a plus. Don't even know why we all just sat back and let you pick up McBride off waivers for free. He goes for 10 catches, almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Gets you 25.5. Mixon gets you 20. Butker gets you about 11. And your Saints defense gets you, looks like a 3-point bump to 11. But yeah, it was enough to get past Hillbillies on PCP this week. Let's see. Lamar Jackson only goes for 31.5. Pickens, Pittman, and Watson, 9, 18, and 6 respectively. ETN, I think only 1 touchdown for him this week, but he still manages 26 points, 80 rushing yards, 80 receiving yards. Jonathan Taylor, 10.5. Kelsey, just under 12. Matheson in the flex, 4.5. Your kicker and your defense, Buffalo Bass goes for 6 point something. And your Buffalo defense, Yahoo says 12. Looks like a 9 point bump for you, up to 21. But yeah, not too much here. So Lamar Jackson didn't do a whole lot for you this week. Your receivers kind of let you down. Taylor didn't do a whole lot. Kelsey, no Taylor, no touchdowns for Travis. Madison didn't do too much, but yeah. Getting gritty brings the Hillbillies on PCP's 6-game winning streak to a screeching halt. Actually drops him down from first place, where he's been for a while, to third place. Popping your bubble there. I guess you won't be putting the standings behind you in the matchup in the podcast this week. Getting gritty. He moves up to 3-5, though he is still down there in 9th place. But important that you didn't get lost number 6 this week. While Hillbillies, he is now 6-2, and he is in 3rd place. And finally, the matchup that did come down to Monday night, we had Yinzer Jags versus Possum Magic. Possum trying to keep his glimmer of hope alive for the playoffs, and unfortunately, he was not able to do it. This one came down to Laporta versus St. Brown on Monday night. Yinzer Jags had, I think, about a 5-point lead with Laporta, while Possum had Amon-Ra. And I was going to say it came down to the touchdown. It went to Laporta instead of Amon-Ra. If you had taken away that touchdown, it was probably like a 15 or 20 yard touchdown. If Amon-Ra had gotten that instead of Laporta, you lost by 8, a little bit less than 8. So yeah, that basically was the factor in this matchup. The touchdown catch going to Laporta instead of Amon-Ra. Like I said, you needed to outscore Laporta by 5, and Laporta actually outscored him by 3, almost 3. Anyway, for the Yinzer, the final score was 173.15 to 165.35. So yeah, for Possum Magic, just under an 8-point margin of defeat here. Jalen Hurts goes for 62.5. Your receivers, DJ, Cup, and Dubs, 9.5, 6, and 12 respectively. Kamara, 2 touchdowns for him, scores 27. Walker, 8. Laporta, 19.7. Warren in your flex goes for 8. Group, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, the Saints kicker, gets you about 7 point something. And then your Eagles defense was able to hold on and get the victory over the Washington Commanders. But they gave up a lot of points and stuff, didn't do a whole lot. Yahoo says 4. I think we bumped you up, looks like about 9 to 13 from your defense there. But Hurts and Kamara were enough to get you, and Laporta were enough to get Yinzer Jags past Possum Magic this week. Purdy goes for 44 and 45. Ridley, Amon-Ra, and Nico. Ridley goes for 14.3. So Amon-Ra got 16.8. Nico an even 7. Pacheco 6.7. Eckler actually finds the end zone this week, gets you 23.3. Goddard 7.5. London in the flex 10.5. Hopkins, your kicker from Cleveland, goes for about 7 point something. And your Jacksonville Jaguars defense, your defenses were playing each other this week. I don't know. The Steelers actually, according to Yahoo, scored more points than the Jacksonville defense. Let's see. Your bump, Yahoo says 15. Looks like we gave you 9. Also 9. that would bump you up to 1 6, maybe 12. That would bump you up to 164. So yeah, you must have gotten 12 to about 27 from your defense. I'm not even going to bother because I know that Steelers gave up a lot of yards. So I doubt that they surpassed 27 enough. They would have needed like 36 to change the outcome of this matchup. Let's take a look at Possum's bench to see if there's anything he might have done differently in retrospect. Not really. You've been sticking with Godert, even though you got Ferguson on the bench. Really don't see anything that you would have done differently. You said started Nico Collins this week. Maybe would have put London as a wide receiver and had a different flex play. But yeah, really just don't see anything Possum that you could have done, really, looking at the guys on your bench, that other than making like multiple changes that I don't think you would have done, would have changed the outcome of this matchup. And unfortunately for you, you dropped to 2-6, and you actually, I said before, Disco climbed out of the basement, only to find now we've got possums in our basement. Possum Magic 2-6, unfortunately now in 12th place. His playoff hopes not looking too good. Well, it said while the Yinzer Jags was available, able to avoid is what I meant to say, not available. Able to avoid becoming one of those 4-4 teams and falling 2 games behind those people at the top. He is now 5-3. He is in 4th place. All right. This week, we only had a couple teams left. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty on the knockout pool. And this week, we said goodbye to Hillbillies on PCP. Brian, you are gone. We've got 4 teams left in the knockout pool. Possum Magic, on the bright side, you are still in the knockout pool. Got a chance to make your money back this year. We'll see what happens. So Tree, me, Kevin, and Ed. Said Ed just barely held on. He had 150, but Dub C only had 145. Said Kevin, Dub C went crazy again this week, and I was able to hold on. So yeah, 4 teams left in the knockout pool. The Wizard, Dub C, Ed Logger, and Possum Magic. Let's take a quick peek ahead at week 9. Taking a look at the standings here. So we've got 3 teams at 6-2. Yinzer's there at 5-3. The 4-4s are Darkwing, Ed, and Josh. 3-5s, Biscuits, Gritty, and Gags. While we got AIDS and Possum Magic down there at 2-6. Disco, AIDS looking to make a run, so still a little bit worried about keeping that in the back of your minds, guys. Looking to make a miraculous run and make the playoffs here. So yeah, we need a couple of you guys, a couple of you 4-4s to get some victories and prevent Disco from making a miraculous run from worst to maybe first. Who knows? Anyway, let's take a look at these matchups here. A quick peek. We got Wizard going against Ed. Should be a good matchup. Trying to get my win number 7 while Ed tries to climb above 500. Trying to keep pace here with Dub C and the Hillbillies. So we'll see what happens here. Biscuits, trying to keep his hopes alive, is going up against Yinzer Jags. Said Biscuits currently has no quarterback. I guess I should take this moment while I'm looking ahead to apologize for, I guess, not even real. It didn't even occur to me that there just wouldn't be any bye weeks. Like, we started bye weeks in week 4 or 5? Like, why would there just randomly not be any in the middle of all of them. Like it didn't even occur to me. And I guess Bigler didn't know until you brought it to his attention that there were no bye weeks. Everybody played last week for some reason. Um, so yeah, it just said I just didn't even occur to me that that was a possibility, and just wasn't really paying any attention. Just trying to looking through the lineups here to see what's going on. But anyway, we got 3-5 Biscuits, who currently has no quarterback on it, no playing quarterback on his roster this week, going up against Yinzer Jags. So Biscuits, you don't want to drop to 3-6 with 5 or 6 weeks left to go. Yeah, 5 weeks. It would be 5 weeks. You would, if you're 3-6, you pretty much have to win out your schedule. You can maybe get one more loss. That's not looking good for you. So you're in a bad spot this week in a matchup you probably really need to win. So we'll see what you do with your quarterback situation. You've got no Kittle. Montgomery's still out. You got Detroit defense on a bye. So I mean Montgomery's been out. He should be coming back soon, which will probably, I would assume, he'll be splitting time with Gibbs. He went off. I said Gibbs has gone off the past 2 weeks. Last week was mostly garbage time, but he did pretty well this week. But I really got to think when Montgomery comes back, they'll be sharing the load. Montgomery's been too good for them to just push him aside. They should have just traded him. It's really what they should have done today. But anyway, so other than your quarterback situation, let's see, you got Bang Bang Robinson. That's no longer Bijan. You got Brian Robinson as a running back. Kincaid, perfectly acceptable. Tight end replacement there. Patriots defense at home against Washington, not too bad. But then we got Zetling. Looks like Laporta's on bye. Everything else doesn't really. You're starting the Bengals defense versus Buffalo instead of the Eagles defense versus Dallas. So we'll see what goes on there. But yeah, not too many, no real bye week issues this week for Yinzer Jags. Although he does have a lot of, just looking here real quick, not ideal matchups for him. Hurts versus the Dallas defense. DJ versus the Saints defense. Cup versus Jair Alexander. We'll see if Stafford plays or not. You got Tyler Boyd in there versus Buffalo defense. Kamara versus the Bears. Walker at Baltimore. Don't really like that. Warren versus Tennessee. Buffalo. Your Bengals defense against Buffalo. So yeah. But I don't really like a lot of Biscuits matchups either. So it's going to be a tough one for him to pull out. Said Biscuits, this is probably a must-win game for you. Yinzers has a lot of tough matchups, but yeah, it's not looking great. What else we got? Darkwing versus AIDS. Said AIDS trying to make that miracle comeback. Justin currently has Stafford in his lineup. Unknown, TBD, whether or not he plays this week. You got Lamb. Well, I really doubt. You still got Waller in there. I really doubt he plays this week. If he's got a hamstring injury, maybe you'll pick up somebody. You got Conklin from the Jets on your bench. Don't really like that. Russell Wilson you got on your bench, but he's on a bye this week. You got your Dallas Cowboys defense. Are you going to bench them again this week? They are playing at Philadelphia. Probably you got the Atlanta Falcons defense at home against Minnesota, who might be starting that rookie quarterback, so that might be a better move for you this week. But yeah, everything else. So your bye week issue doesn't look like you got one. Just a matter of, are you going to have a quarterback, and which defense you're going to start? As for AIDS, said McCaffrey and Gibbs on a bye this week, so he's got to start Royce Freeman and Zach Charbonnet. He's got the Giants defense at Las Vegas. Might be a good play, considering how abysmal the Raiders looked last night. Burrow You got Chase down there in the flex. They're playing Buffalo. Could be a shootout. Could be a bit of a defensive struggle. We'll see what happens there. Browns got Murray coming back, maybe Waddle. This game I'm worried about for my matchup, as Ed's got Mahomes and I think Mostert. I think it's is it in Germany or something? I don't think it's London, but yeah, the Chiefs versus the Dolphins, Sunday morning, 9:30. That's a game that if you're playing against people who have fantasy players in that matchup, you're a little bit worried about it, as I definitely am. Has said going up against Mahomes, against the Chiefs versus the Dolphins. That game could end up, there could be 100 points scored in that game. Let's see. So, Justin, you got a little bit of issues, but we'll see what happens with you. Well, you're kind of lucking out. You won't have to play against CMC or Gibbs this week. But yeah, Justin will be looking to knock off AIDS and put him one step closer to being out of playoff contention. We got Dub C versus Gags. Dub C took over first place. Gags have been reeling these past few weeks, as we all know. Projections are actually pretty much the same. I think Kevin's got a few bye week issues. He's riding the 2-2 train again this week. But other than that, I don't really know what else you need to be worried about. Both your defenses have questionable matchups. Other than that, you really don't have any. I'm not really sure. Your running backs still kind of suck, but other than that, I'm not too sure what you're worried about. And Gags basically has the same starting lineup, looks like, as he did last week. We'll see if he makes any moves. Jerome Ford might come back and play this week. You might want to throw him in the lineup there somewhere. But yeah, you got Tua in the Kansas City Dolphins game. He could go off and create for a crazy score this week. So we'll see what happens. Gags trying to hold on to any playoff hopes. Then we've got Hillbillies versus Shawshank. Shawshank trying to climb above 500 and keep his playoff hopes alive. Just looking at his team, he's basically missing his San Fran defense and kicker. He's got the Vegas defense in, who I assume are not going to have Jones or Tyrod Taylor this week. They started some guy named DeVito last week, and he threw like 2 passes. They ran like the entire second half of that game. Saquon had like 35 carries or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know what the heck the Giants are going to do. They can actually let him throw the ball this week. But yeah, they have to go to Las Vegas and play the Raiders defense, the defense still actually played kind of all right last night against Detroit. But he said basically for Josh, he's got to pick up a kicker, and his defense might be okay. For Hillbillies, he's got Shaheed in there over Watson. No ETN. He's on bye this week. You've got your Buffalo defense. You're benching them versus Cincinnati and playing Cleveland's against Arizona at home. Like that matchup there. You've got Taysom Hill in your flex. Chasing points there. Maybe a little bit. But yeah, no ETN. You've got Shaheed over Watson. So we'll see what goes on. This actually should be a pretty interesting matchup. See if Josh can keep his playoff hopes alive. And then, what's the last one here real quick? Possum versus Getting Gritty. So yeah, 2 lower standing teams. Getting Gritty, trying to get closer to 500 and keep his playoff hopes alive. While Possum Magic, so he's now in the basement. Basically has to win out his schedule to even have any chance, probably. Look at Getting Gritty. He's got Gabe Davis as his wide receiver this week. No Christian Kirk. No Sutton. Other than that, you're in pretty good spots. The rest of your guys are really in there. Depends on the if Aaron Jones starts to actually come back and play healthy. And unfortunately for Possum, he's got some bye week issues this week. He's got Minshew in a quarterback over Purdy. No Amon-Ra, no Ridley this week. No Jacksonville defense. You've got Steelers against Tennessee. They are at home. We'll see how that goes. You got Moss in there in the flex. Wandell at wide receiver. Will the Giants actually throw passes this week? So yeah, Possum not looking good for you. If you lose this week, you are probably on life support in terms of having any playoff chances. While getting gritty, the door will still be open for you. We'll trying to make a run here for you down the stretch of the season here. But all right, that's everything for week 8. Week 9 should be pretty fun. A lot of matchups, important matchups here. Every single week and every matchup is going to be important as we head into the double-digit weeks of the season, approaching Thanksgiving. I actually need to go on here and check exactly when Yahoo has the trade deadline set up, because it might be earlier than it should be. I'll have to go in and check that, put something on the lineup there for you. Because before we added that extra week of the regular season, I think that was last year, our trade deadline was about 2 weeks before the end of our regular season. So I think week 12 was usually Thanksgiving and then into week 12. And the deadline was usually between Thanksgiving and that week, so week 12. But now we have that extra week, so trades said we stopped them with like 2 weeks left in the regular season. So that means weeks 13 and 14, we'll try to cut it off right before week 13. So I'll have to go in and see what Yahoo has it at. I can't remember if I changed it earlier in the year or not. But yeah, I'll go in and double check that, make sure we're in a good spot, and make sure everybody knows when the trade deadline is going to be coming up here, because we got a couple more weeks yet. But the trades this year have been few and far between. Basically, getting gritty, jumping into the league and doing all the action, shaking things up. Gags hasn't really done anything, but then again, this hasn't been a season where, and again, Gags doesn't really have anything that anybody wants for the most part. Sorry to say, Gags. Maybe Tua, maybe Godwin, maybe T. Higgins. Other than that, I don't really think you have many pieces that other people would be wanting this year to trade. You just don't have the chips to trade with this year. So maybe that's why things have been as they are. But anyway, I've just talked for a freaking hour and over an hour. Anyway, no more injuries. Come on, guys. This was a brutal one, especially from the quarterbacks. And so those quarterback injuries trickle down to our wide receivers. No more injuries. May all of your teams meet or exceed expectations this week. No more injuries. Come on. I think Brian Bean, Kevin, your dog took a shit on Bob Dylan's head right there. If you could please clean that up. We got a little thing over here that you guys didn't seem to notice last week, because you have to be watching. You can't just be listening to have been aware of that. But anyway, maybe he's actually going to watch the recap this week. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. I'm actually going to say goodbye, and I'm going to stick to it. So yeah, this is it. We'll see you back here to recap the events of what should be an interesting week 9. All right, guys, we'll see you then. Bye bye.